things from master classes. I don't want to hear yeah. I want to hear whoop, 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 whoop. All right, all right, all right. So welcome back, and we're going to go straight into the Fireside Chat 2. And to moderate this session is a partner at McKinsey and Associates. Please put your hands together as I make welcome Mayowa Kuyoro.
Thank you very much, Jabba. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second half of the career fair. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. I can't hear you. Are you enjoying it? Are you learning? Good, 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 good. The title of the career fair is The Future is Now. And if we think about the future and we think about all that's going on, we know there's a lot about technology, a lot about digital, a lot about sort of technology-enabled businesses and how we can do things differently. So the next guests that we're going to call on are actually going to make use of technology. One of them, I think, is in the UK and the other is in the US. And I think it's such a blessing that we can sit down and hear from them based out of 30 Kudirat Abiola Way in Lagos. Isn't God good? Awesome. So I understand that there is a crisis brewing. As you guys have seen, there's been a lot of regulatory, what's the word I'm looking for? There's been a lot that's happening in the regulatory space. So one of our guests is actually going to join a little late because he has to deal with what is happening. But again, that's the nature of being ahead of the regulation in certain respects. So there's a few things that's going to happen. So I'm going to call on or ask Kola. Technology, are we ready? I'm going to tell you first of all about our first guest. His name is Kola Aino. He's a founding partner of Ventures platform, and they are a venture capital firm that invests in early stage businesses. So they've invested in a lot of the names. In fact, I won't spoil the surprise. I'll let Kola tell you himself some of the businesses that they've invested in. And the reason I'm really excited to have this conversation with Kola, and then hopefully Gbenga joins us shortly, is that they are the cutting edge and the forefront of what's happening in our space today. So if I tell you a few things about what's happening in sort of the startup and technical and digital space in Nigeria, I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone that Nigeria is the hotbed of innovation. I think one of the guests even said it, and Dr. Oke said it earlier this morning. Nigeria is at the hotbed of innovation when it comes to technology and digital. And it's one thing to say it, but I also like facts and evidence because of the kind of job that I do. And across Africa, Nigeria accounts for, there are 54 countries in Africa, but Nigeria accounts for nearly 40% of all the investment that is going into early stage startups on the continent today. So there's a lot going on here. So I think it's great to hear and listen to my friend Kola, who's just going to speak to us a little bit about what the future for digital is.
Hi, Maiwa. Thanks for having me here. Really delighted to join you guys. Can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you, but we can't see you yet.
Oh, my video's on. You should.
No, it's on our side.
Okay.
But maybe you should say hello to the group that we have here and introduce yourself.
Yeah. So hi everyone. I'm so delighted to be here. My name is Kola Aino, General Partner of Ventures Platform. Maiwa, thanks for the opportunity and the invitation. Ventures Platform is an early stage discovery fund. We invest in companies across the African continent who we believe are building the future of technology that would sort of improve livelihoods around the continent. We I invested in about 60 companies at the moment around the continent. And my background was in building technology companies. And I recently sort of morphed to becoming a full-time investor. I'm delighted to talk to you guys today about technology. It's an interesting day and week to be having this conversation because we've all been very busy dealing with all sorts of interesting regulatory developments, but looking forward to sharing and engaging with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kola. The first question I'll ask you is to maybe share. I know you started out as someone who was sort of developing technology, and then you went into investing in technology. But can you just tell us a little bit about your background for the folks in the room to hear?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. So my background, I studied electrical engineering in school. So worked as an engineer for a short while, and then went off to business school. And post business school, I worked in corporate finance for some time as well. But all through school and all through sort of my professional career, I always had the entrepreneurial itch. So I always had some side business or some side hustle from a very young age. I mean, I started my first sort of business at 16 or something, and then in 2008, I then sort of really decided to pivot into full-on entrepreneurship. And so I moved back to Nigeria a couple years later, and basically started venturing, building out technology businesses. The most successful of which was a company called Emerging Platforms. We were essentially a technology solution provider, working with various types of organizations to build proprietary software to solve various problems. We did a lot of work in the edtech space, helping universities collect payments online, take courses offline, and sort of automate all their processes. And in doing all of that, I sort of became very convinced that technology was going to be an important part of the future of Nigeria, of making things better, and that entrepreneurs that leverage technology and have access to resources are actually a better tool for development than, in my view, than aid or grants could ever be. And so I really wanted to sort of be a part of finding and supporting those types of people. I also had a righteous vengeance because when I started my business, we secured a brief from a pretty large client, and I tried to raise equity to execute the brief, but I couldn't. Then I went to try to raise debt. When you say you tried to raise equity, maybe explain that for us. I tried to raise money. So I approached investors. This was in 2012 or so. I approached investors. Everyone said no. And then I started approaching banks. I literally wrote a letter to, I forget how many banks we had in Nigeria at the time, probably around 20 or something. I literally wrote a letter to every bank MD and found someone that knew them. But because it was in the education space, it was technology, it just didn't make sense. And everyone said no, even with all the introductions. Obviously, a couple years later, a number of the banks wanted to be our banker and were literally chasing us because the volumes had really grown significantly. And so I had a bit of a righteous vengeance in wanting to ensure that the entrepreneurs that could build great companies wouldn't have the same struggle that I had in fundraising. And that was sort of what led me to becoming an investor in technology companies.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your story. The title of the panel session, and you've already alluded to it, is The Future is Digital. And we also talk about the future is now. So let me ask, how do you think as a young Nigerian, people should think about technology and how they can take advantage of the shifts and the changes that we're seeing in the landscape? You talked about being able to help universities collect payments and automate that process. Where are the opportunities that people should be thinking about as you think about what you can do with digital and technology today?
Yeah, great idea. I mean, I think first of all, we need to sort of define what technology is, right? I think when people hear technology, they often think of software, right, or an app. But the reality is that technology is a lot is broader than that, right? And so at the base level, technology is really a mechanism that you design to do something, you know, of a repeatable mechanism, some would say, that you design to do something. But for the purposes of this conversation, I believe we're talking about IT, software, and those types of tools. And I think the first thing I want to state very clearly is that I fundamentally believe that technology is going to change, as it's changed the rest of the world, is going to change every sphere of society in every part of the world, including Nigeria. And so I think that if you, whatever, regardless of what sector you're in, whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, in agric, you really need to think through how two things really. I think one, how technology would impact your industry or your work or your business, and two, how you might use technology to improve what you do, right? And I think the way folks in the audience need to think about this is really to recognize the opportunity that technology is, and not necessarily think that you need to be a tech bro, as they say, or a technologist or software engineer to leverage technology. It's technology is applicable in every sector. Today, obviously, there's a lot of the big rave is fintech, and everyone's talking about fintech. But I think what we're seeing is that we're seeing technology applications across various sectors, across several sectors. And I think that's what I'd like to sort of ensure that everyone in the audience recognizes, that you are able to leverage technology in your sphere of influence, you know, and you should actually leverage technology. The other counterbalance is that if you don't leverage technology, well, it's going to eat your lunch at some point, right? Or some part of your lunch, right? So in other words, technology continues to expand as it continues to expand its application. We all need to become aware of how it could impact what we consider our day jobs or our careers or what have you, right? I mean, we saw what happened with the COVID pandemic, right? And how even church became virtual, right? And I mean, and if you were a pastor or your church that didn't want to adopt technology, you would find that you would probably struggle, right? And so it's really not a choice that we have. It's really figuring out how we leverage technology for our advantage and positively as well.
Thank you very much for that answer. You mentioned something I want to go a little bit deeper on, which is this idea that you don't necessarily need to be technologically inclined to be able to take advantage of technology. So how would you, let me give an example. I've studied, let's call it medieval sciences. There's no technological application there. We're talking about medieval sciences. How do I begin to reorient myself to begin to think through getting ready for the future and getting ready for the future that is actually now with regards to technology?
Yeah, I think a few sort of traits really lend themselves to being successful in this field. The first trait I've found to be useful is a general deep sense of curiosity, right? Really being curious, to really questioning things and figuring out why things remain the way they are, and how could they be, and trying to figure out how they could be better. I mean, before GB, who's meant to be joining us at some point, fingers crossed, founded Flutterwave and figured out how basically, I mean, and Flutterwave does many things today, but one of the things they do is they enable businesses to take payments online. Well, before that, you really couldn't do that comfortably in Nigeria. I mean, you had, one or two companies in Nigeria trying to do it, but it never worked well. Well, it took a certain level of curiosity to question the status quo and then to look for a solution around that, right? And so I think that's the first thing that everyone in the audience has to sort of have. And it doesn't come naturally to us as Nigerians, if I'm to be honest, because the educational system does not necessarily encourage asking questions. Our culture doesn't encourage asking questions. And so you have to almost step out of yourself to sort of force that behavior. The other thing the other skill that I would say is really critical to being successful in this arena is sort of the ability to learn and unlearn very quickly. So whether it's take for instance, I mean, everyone today talks about cryptocurrency, right? Cryptocurrency seems to be the rave. Well, to really understand cryptocurrency, you have to understand money, but you have to think about money in a particular perspective, right? And it does require you to sort of unlearn what you thought money was and relearn it, right? And so that constant unlearning and relearning is really critical as you sort of think about technology, and I think is at the heart of sort of innovating as well. And I would say the third thing that I think is a critical skill is really networks. This entire ecosystem that, a lot of no one builds a successful technology solution, product, or company all by themselves, right? I mean, yes, you have the rare cases where maybe someone, but even if you build it, to scale it, to take it to market, you have to have the ability to get, because to get people to believe in what you've built, to invest in it, to try it out, and that takes not only healthy, strong networks, but also a compelling ability to communicate, right? And so I think just to summarize, I could go on and on about this topic. I think there are three key skills that I hope everyone in the audience focuses on. One is curiosity, which doesn't come naturally to us as Nigerians. 3 is unlearning and relearning new things very rapidly. And the internet is fantastic there's nothing you want to learn or do that you won't find on the internet today, right? This industry is a very giving industry. Not people build in public, so you can literally watch another company and learn from what they're doing, right? And just try to do yours better. And the third thing that I would say is networking and communicating. I know I've kept it very basic, but I really want people to feel that this is approachable material.
Thank you very much, Kola. And I can't stress that point about the internet is there. There's nothing you don't want to learn. In fact, Kola and I became friends when I was asking him to learn about cryptocurrency because I didn't understand it. And so he sent me a whole bunch of links. And I just spent a Saturday afternoon and I went through everything to try and understand the fundamentals of cryptocurrency because it was something that was happening a lot. So the internet is a wonderful tool. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and ask one more question, and I'm sure the audience would love to hear from the rest of the audience. I'm a young person. I have a great idea for a startup. What do I do? You've talked about funding, you've talked about networks and so on and so forth. What do I do? What is the first step? Because what we don't celebrate enough in Nigeria is actually the fact that small and medium enterprises are the heartblood of our economy. And I think Nigeria has close to 40 million small and medium-sized enterprises. So I'm a young graduate, a fresh graduate. I have an idea. What do I do? What are the steps I should take to think about scaling or even just building out my business?
Great. So at that point, you're not even thinking about scaling, right? You first of all need to validate if your idea is actually a business, because not every idea is a business, right? So the first thing that I would say is, if you have an idea, I would say that try to investigate and determine the resources you would need to execute on the idea. And I'll explain what I mean. So for instance, if you are an accountant and you have an idea to build an accounting platform business for SMEs that's online, right? The moment that idea comes to your mind, the first thing that I would ask myself is, do I have all it takes to do this? And if I don't, what other human resources do I require? Well, if I was you, and we can role play this, right? The first thing that will come to my mind is, oh, I need software skills. I have the accounting skills so I can design the product. And maybe I have a bit of salesmanship. Or if I don't, then that means I need a salesperson. And when you determine that, that starts to lead you to figuring out if you need to build a founding team, right, to execute on the idea. I start from there because I think the most important thing in building a technology company is really the team, the founding team, right? Because what you would find is if you've got the right team, you can actually pivot your idea very quickly. So spend time figuring out what other human resources you need to execute the idea. Now, once you've done that, if you need one other person, try to find who that person is, right, and sell the idea to them. Hopefully your idea makes sense to one other person, and that's actually the first validation that maybe you might be onto something. Because if you can't get one other person to get excited about the idea, one other person you need to get excited about the idea, then the idea may just not be worth pursuing, right? Again, startups are not about what we like, or companies are not about what we want or what we like. They're really about what the market needs and wants, especially if you want to scale it. And the mistake people often make is they have all these ideas and they think the world is ready for their ideas. Well, hey, there are lots of ideas in the world. The world wants what the world wants, right? So try to build that team. And before you even build the app or build the company, figure out if you can get the second person excited about the idea. The second step I would take once you find that person, or it could work out that you don't need another person, it's just you. The second step that I would take is try to figure out the most minimum viable version of that product. I'm sure you've all heard MVPs or, and now there are new versions of that sort of phenomenon that suggests that an MVP is probably not the best thing, but I will still use that term. Figure out the smallest iteration or version of the product or business that you can build to test out the idea, right? So for instance, if your idea is to build a online laundromat, for instance, can you start with a WhatsApp iteration where people reach out to you on WhatsApp to test the idea? I believe when you do that, it gives you some feedback as to the viability of the idea. Then you can start thinking about fundraising and all of that. But firstly, I would strongly encourage that you take those two first steps before you even consider fundraising for your idea. Most importantly, start. Take that first step and get the idea out of your head. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kola. We're going to do something slightly different because I realized in the morning session, it was a lot of us just us on stage asking questions. I'm sure there's a lot of questions in the audience. So Stephanie has kindly agreed to sort of help facilitate the process of us asking questions in the audience. Thank you very much, Kola. So the audience is now going to ask some questions as well. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Mayowa. If you have any questions, can you please put up your hands and the microphone will be passed on to you. Anybody in the audience? If you have any questions on startups, technology, please feel free to ask.
Do we have a shy audience or have I just put everyone to sleep?
You did a fantastic job.
Thanks.
Okay, there's one hand here. Can we have a mic handed over to her?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Oyeyemi Okoyemi, and I'm a partner from PW University, Lagos. I want to ask a question. What do you do as just this startup person? And you have a team. I actually studied accounting and trying to, use software to merge with accounting and then provide results for this small and medium scale enterprise. Why did I choose the smaller version? Because I can't just go and pitch. I just learn. So I want to practice my skills. And then you are pitching to these small and medium scale enterprises, and they're like, we don't need this. I can do my accounts myself. I can put the figures in the software, and why should I even consider you? Okay, we will help you. You don't need to pay. Just make sure you give me your data. I will impute it and I will interpret it for you. But people don't see the reason for these things, especially in Nigeria, about the buy to your ideas. But this part of the world is very difficult to get customers in terms of technology because they don't even understand. So apart from communication and going on social media to make videos, telling them of the importance, and people even feel it's very dry to talk about accounting and tech. Like, I can manage my business. So is it that I should just jumpstart and go to bigger companies and see if they can, if I can help them, or I should still maintain this small caveat so that I can learn and push up?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great question. I think I would share two thoughts to that question. I think you're talking about the challenge of customer awareness and education, right? And I think it's a very fundamental problem for certain sectors. So I would suggest two things, right? You really have to work hard to figure out your customers' pain points, their biggest pain points, right? And there's a model I really love called the jobs to be done model. I'll repeat that, jobs to be done, right? And it's a model made popular by Professor Clayton Christensen, who's late now, which basically suggests that every time a consumer makes a purchasing decision, they are hiring that purchase to do a particular job. And it's not always obvious what that job is. So for instance, a lady is in a mall with her son and buys the son ice cream, for instance, because she's not necessarily buying the ice cream, maybe because she wants to increase the sugar level of the child. It could very well be that she's buying that ice cream so the child can leave her alone so she can do her shopping, right? And if you think about it that way, the way you would design your ice cream cone would be very different. So one of the things that I would do is I would ensure that it's longer lasting, like maybe, or there's some drip mechanism that ensures that the child can finish it in 5 minutes and then the child is back to bothering the mother. So do you see how that helps to really flesh out how you think about your solution? Very different from just saying, oh, accounting software, buy it. The reason businesses account is very different. It could be so they can get access to credit. That could be the job to be done, or so that they can pay lower taxes or whatever. I'm just using that as an example. When you take the jobs to be done lens, you are able to right fit your proposition, your service, your business more aptly to capture a larger chunk of the market. But the reality remains that certain sectors are just not ready for disruption or for technology adoption. And so from when you look at the life cycle, the technology adoption life cycle, we tend in markets like Nigeria, where access to patient capital is still not as pervasive as it needs to be, we don't encourage people building companies in areas that require massive customer education, right? For instance, a couple of years ago, we invested in a company that, they were building a great product, but the cost of educating the user was just too high, right? And they ended up not being able to sort of fund it. And so they couldn't raise follow-on funding, and the company, unfortunately, didn't survive. I'll end by saying your business, your solution has to be a painkiller and not a vitamin. Because unfortunately, when in low-income communities or markets like Nigeria, people don't spend on vitamins. They only spend on painkillers. I hope that helps. Only the wealthy people like Mayowa buy vitamins.
All right, Kola, thank you so much. This has been a very interesting and thought-provoking session. The future truly is digital. We thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to this sort of session again. Thank you all so much. Can we please put our hands together for Mr. Kola?
Thanks for having me. It was great to fellowship with you virtually over Zoom. I wish everyone a fantastic rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Over to you now, Joba.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you very much, Mr. Kola. I know. Please put your hands together one more time. He said something very important, and it's that Nigerians are not raised to ask questions. I remember how many, I'll use the words in Yoruba before I'll say them in English. Igbarun, Igbati, Iko, Abara. Now these are elements that will give you a factory reset. When you ask questions as simple as why. Your parents tell you do this, and you ask why. Who are you? Backhand. Somebody wants to give you money, and you have looked in your mom's eyes, and she gives you that look. There's a look, and then there's a look. She has given you the look, and you're still asking, Mommy, should I collect it? You are not going to ask that question a second time. Collect it. And because of that, a lot of people have grown to just accept what it is that you're told to do without questioning. Now, we're not saying go against what you're being told. We're saying think about it, reason. Ask the question. If you're not even going to ask them, just think about why they're telling you. If your parents tell you, don't steal. If the Bible tells you, don't steal, think about why the Bible is telling you not to steal. Because if you steal and they catch you, the repercussions are not always friendly. You steal or you lie. Any of these things, whatever it is that you do not understand, you ask questions. Ask yourself questions, and the most important one being why. So thank you once again, Mr. Kola Aino. Please put your hands together. Before we go on, I'm going to bring up the set man of the house just to say something to round up what Mr. Kola Aino has said, and to give us a little expose into why Ecos and Abaras and a couple of reset mechanisms have, taken the center stage for so long. Please put your hands together with Jesus' joy and gladness as I call up stage Pastor Tunde Bakare.
Wabaminle. Do you understand what Wabaminle is? Wabaminle is another reset mechanism. Honestly, I didn't expect to be called to share anything because I came to learn. I'm not as savvy as you are technology-wise. Should be thanking God that I'm using iPad to preach now. It was a long journey to get there. My son wrote to me when he was 6 years old when he took me through email how to use it. I found it funny. I've seen fax machine. It was before fax machine. But I say, what do you call it? Not telex. It's telex, you're right. Big box like this. Those were the things we're familiar with. And when I got my first Amstrad computer, the whole world knew. I typed the first letter on it to Olubomi. I thought I was making history. There's still so many things I don't know I'm learning. And so I will crave your indulgence to let me sit and just soak these things in and be able to ask questions. But he wants to know the reason for the Ipo, Igati, Abara, and the look. I was coming from school one day, primary school, and my mother just sent food before my uncle. As I came in, uncle said, "Oh, come and eat with me." I was hungry. I dipped my hand in the washing bowl, and my mother gave me the book. I threw the hand out of the washing bowl and put it in my pocket. Uncle said, "You are no longer eating." I said, "Actually, I just washed my hands." When uncle left, my mother said, "God save you. Because I've prepared your own food. Why do you want to eat with somebody else?" I didn't find that funny until I read in my Bible in Psalm 32, "I will guide you by my hand." And I discovered she was teaching me system that God himself uses. That parents are given to us to correct, not to visit their wrath, anger, or aggression on us. And when they're giving us such correction, it's not palatable. In the Old Testament, a child is called a bastard because he or she was born out of wedlock. In the New Testament, a bastard is one without discipline, Hebrews chapter 12. Most of those disciplines will not be palatable at the beginning, but you discover that your parents don't hate you, they're just training you. These days, there are several other ways to train a child, but they must be trained all the same. I really did not plan to even come here today. But honestly, when Dr. OK was speaking, I called my attention, I watched it from the beginning to the end. And I saw the first fire, what do you call it? Okay. I said, you know what? I'm missing out of this. I'm good. And I quickly shaved, took my bath, and decided to come here. I want to thank you for the initiative. By God's grace, I'm going to let the whole church, including adults and Crown of Glory, know what they've missed these past few days. Arise Television interviewed me, and they said, "How did you put all this together for your youth?" I said, "I will tell you the truth. I had no clue." The youth, their pastors, their leaders sat together and began to put this together to lay hold of that future and bring it into now. And I trust God that your labor will not be in vain, that you get tremendous returns for your investment of time and critical thinking, because you are making adults to learn now. The way we pastored before is changing. Yeah, you heard Dr. OK mentioned it, and Kola, who just spoke, said, pastors who did not know anything about technology, COVID had taught them some lessons. I thank God that before COVID hit, we were ready, we're technologically wired already, and we're looking for opportunities to do more, so that if there is no building, I kept on asking you that question years back. If they cannot meet in a building, what's going to happen? I know the e-church is the future. Whether you like it or not, when you say earth, earth, hear the word of the Lord using technology. May your innovative skills and creative ingenuity spring forth. And may it bring resources to you, to your family, and to the kingdom of God. Thank you for this opportunity.
Please keep clapping till he takes his seat. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the insight. Now you know. Next time you get a factory reset, you know where it's from. It's from a place of love and correction. All right, quickly, one of our partners, that's Utiva, is offering 5 slots, 5 scholarship slots for 5 attendees today for any of their programs. So if you walk up to Utiva and you are interested in any of their programs, a scholarship for 5 lucky and blessed people. So maybe if you make your way there first, the first 5 people at the time you're supposed to go, you get a scholarship. That's thanks to our partners, one of our partners, Utiva. Please put your hands together for them. Without further ado, we'll be splitting into our masterclass sessions, the second round. And this time we have 3 classes, just like we had the first time. And the first one is professional development, unlocking your potentials and applying your creative strengths. This is going to be facilitated by none other than Mr. Idorenyen Enang, the CEO of Corporate Shepherds. Please put your hands together. Today you will know where the key to unlocking these things has been hiding all along. The second masterclass is skills acquisition, building a smart online presence. A lot of us have struggled to project our brands, our businesses in the online space, especially. How do you create content? How do you create content that people want to see, that people want to associate themselves with? You're going to learn all of this and more under the tutelage of Mr. Adama J. Adama, the CEO of Enadama Group. Please put your hands together. And the third masterclass is creatives creating opportunities for wealth. God has given us the power to make wealth. So you have to look for the opportunities that you can exert your power to create that wealth. So to teach us and help us to look for these opportunities is Shola Babatunde, the principal, OSC College of Fashion. Please put your hands together. Now we know there's no way one person can attend all the master classes at once because they are running concurrently. So whichever one you feel sits in your area of interest, please do well to attend. Now, there are no excuses. What we have are options. So you have options, all 3 options on how to succeed. It's for you to choose the one that you would want to go with. So ladies and gentlemen, in the same orderly fashion with which we came in, please let us proceed to the master classes. You know the venues by now. And so please let us proceed to those master classes. God bless you. See you guys in 30 minutes.